Hatsukachi City, located in Hiroshima Prefecture, is a place that many would consider the epitome of safety and tranquility. Known for its rich agricultural heritage, thriving fisheries, and a tourism industry bolstered by the nearby Itsukushima Shrine, the city is often described as peaceful, prosperous, and full of life. But on October 5, 2004, this serene community was shaken to its core by a crime that would haunt the town for years to come. The heart of this tragedy was Satomi Kitaguchi, a 17-year-old sophomore high school student. Satomi lived with her family in a traditional Japanese house, a structure that symbolized the close-knit intergenerational ties that are a hallmark of many Japanese families. It was here that she resided with her father, mother, grandmother, and younger sister, and it was here that their peaceful lives were turned upside down. It was October 25, 2004, a day that should have been unremarkable. For Satomi, it was an exam day, which meant that school ended earlier than usual. Like many other students, she rode her bicycle home, looking forward to an afternoon of rest. Her home, usually a haven of warmth, would become the site of an unimaginable tragedy. Both of Satomi's parents were away at work, as they often were on weekdays. This left the house relatively quiet, with only her grandmother and younger sister at home. After a simple lunch, Satomi decided to retreat to the second floor of the right wing to rest, unaware of the danger lurking just outside her door. In the left wing of the house, her grandmother and younger sister were engrossed in a television program, oblivious to the horrific events about to unfold. Suddenly, their world was shattered by the sound of Satomi's terrified scream. The sound echoed through the house, freezing them with fear before propelling them into action. What they discovered when they reached the second floor was the stuff of nightmares. Satomi lay unconscious, her body drenched in blood. Standing over her was a young man, possibly in his early 20s, his height somewhere between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 7 inches. He held a knife, still wet with blood, in his trembling hand. Overcome with horror, Satomi's younger sister bolted from the house, desperate to find help. She ran as fast as her legs could carry her to a nearby florist, her voice trembling as she cried out, "My sister has been stabbed! My sister has been stabbed!" Unfortunately, the grandmother was not as quick. Before she could escape, the intruder turned his attention to her, stabbing her 4 times before fleeing the scene. Despite her grave injuries, the grandmother managed to muster the strength to call the police before succumbing to unconsciousness. When the police arrived, they found Satomi's grandmother unconscious by the phone. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, clinging to life by a thread. Upstairs, they discovered Satomi's lifeless body. She had been stabbed 10 times, with the fatal blow striking near her heart. Despite the paramedics' best efforts, it was too late. Satomi was gone. Police were left with a daunting task, finding the man who had committed such a brutal act. The assailant had fled the scene, leaving behind a trail of blood and confusion. There were 2 possible routes he could have taken. One led to the main road, offering numerous directions for escape. The other led to the quieter, more secluded area by the river, where he could have easily hidden among the houses or slipped away undetected. Despite a thorough door-to-door investigation, the police found no useful leads. The attack had occurred in the early afternoon, a time when most people were at work or school, leaving the streets eerily empty. With no witnesses and no immediate clues, the investigation hit a dead end almost immediately. The investigation, however, did yield some critical evidence. Satomi's grandmother miraculously survived the attack, providing invaluable information to the police. Additionally, forensic experts meticulously combed the crime scene, uncovering an unidentified fingerprint and several shoe prints. These prints were analyzed, leading to the identification of the shoe's brand and size, between 26 and 27 centimeters, or roughly 10.2 to 10.7 inches. While this size was common, it was a piece of the puzzle that couldn't be ignored. One of the most significant pieces of evidence came from Satomi herself. During the attack, she had fought back fiercely, managing to scratch her assailant. Under her fingernails, forensic experts found traces of male DNA, likely that of the attacker. This DNA sample, while small, was a critical lead that could potentially link the perpetrator to the crime. Based on descriptions provided by Satomi's grandmother and younger sister, a forensic artist was able to create a facial sketch of the attacker. He was described as a young man in his early 20s, with short hair, small eyes, and noticeable acne scars. His build was sturdy, and he stood between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 7 inches tall. This sketch was widely distributed among Satomi's friends, family, and neighbors in the hope that someone would recognize the man and provide the police with a crucial lead. Despite the extensive efforts to identify the man in the sketch, the response was disheartening. No one came forward with any information. It was as if the attacker had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a grieving family and a community paralyzed by fear. The lack of progress in the investigation was a heavy blow to Satomi's parents, who were left to grapple with the unimaginable loss of their daughter. In a desperate attempt to find answers, Satomi's parents offered a cash reward of 3 million yen to anyone who could provide information leading to the arrest of their daughter's killer. This was not just money, it was the savings they had carefully set aside for Satomi's college education, now being used in a bid to bring justice for her untimely death. Satomi's father was relentless in his search for answers. He handed out flyers in crowded places, police stations, and shopping centers, hoping that someone somewhere had seen something that could help solve the case. He even started a blog to keep Satomi's story alive, writing over 4,000 entries over the years and collecting nearly 200 pieces of information related to the case. But despite these efforts, the police were unable to make any significant progress. After 11 long years, the police sought the help of specialists from the United States, the Behavioral Analysis Unit. This elite team of investigators used criminal psychology to analyze and solve complex cases. They revisited the crime scene, spoke with neighbors, and used their findings to construct a profile of the attacker. Their conclusion was chilling. The crime was not premeditated but rather an act of voluntary manslaughter, triggered by circumstantial factors. The BAU used the original sketch and advanced computer software to create a more detailed facial composite of the suspect. Yet, even with this new image, the case remained at a standstill. The man who had so brutally taken Satomi's life continued to elude capture, his identity a haunting mystery. But justice was about to come soon. The case took an unexpected turn in April 2018, when a seemingly unrelated incident in Yamaguchi Prefecture brought new hope to the investigation. A construction worker contacted the police to report that his supervisor, a man named Manabu Kashima, had violently kicked him during an argument. While the situation had calmed by the time the police arrived, they followed protocol and took fingerprints from both men. Kashima's behavior during this process raised red flags. He appeared noticeably anxious about having his fingerprints taken. Sensing something was off, the police decided to run his prints through their database. What they found was astonishing. Kashima's fingerprint matched the one found at the scene of Satomi Kitaguchi's murder. Kashima, who was now 35 years old, had been living in Ubeshi, Yamaguchi, just 100 kilometers from Hatsukachi. In 2004, he would have been 21 years old, a fact that aligned perfectly with the profile of Satomi's attacker. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the police arrested Kashima and transferred him to Hiroshima for further questioning. The trial of Manabu Kashima began on March 28, 2020. Initially, he denied any involvement in Satomi's murder. However, as the evidence against him mounted, Kashima eventually broke down and confessed to the crime. According to his confession, Kashima had never met Satomi before that fateful day. He had ridden his bike from Ubeshi to Hatsukachi, deeply frustrated by work and life. When he saw Satomi riding her bicycle, he was struck by her beauty and began to follow her. He waited for the right moment to approach her, eventually sneaking into her home with the intention of assaulting her. Satomi, however, did not go down without a fight. Her fierce resistance enraged Kashima, leading him to stab her repeatedly with a folding knife he carried. During the trial, Kashima's defense lawyer argued that the crime was not premeditated but rather a momentary lapse in judgment brought on by stress and frustration. The judge, however, did not accept this explanation. The impact of Satomi's murder on her family and the community was profound. The judge noted the extended period Kashima had remained on the run, the fear and pain he had caused, and the devastating loss suffered by Satomi's family. In the end, Manabu Kashima was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. Case of Satomi Kitaguchi is a stark reminder of how a single moment can shatter countless lives. The pain and loss endured by her family is unimaginable, and the community of Hatsukachi will forever be marked by this tragedy. Yet, amidst the darkness, there is a glimmer of light. Justice, though delayed, was eventually served. Satomi's story is not just about a life cut short, but also about the relentless pursuit of truth and justice by her family and the unwavering support of a community that refused to forget. As we remember Satomi, we honor her memory by continuing to seek justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about the case. See you in the next videos.